Carson Wentz debatably is the most important person in Philadelphia Eagles franchise history. That sounds insane. Jackson, what the hell are you talking about? Well, let me explain. So, Carson Wentz, obviously in 2017, there's no denying he was a big impact player for that Eagles team. He might have won MVP had he not gotten injured. He helped the Eagles get the 1 seed, and even though he did not play in the playoffs, he put them in good position to where they didn't have the toughest route to get to the Super Bowl, and then Nick Foles was able to go off against Minnesota and against New England. And you could argue Wentz was the second most important player of that team because of what he did. Okay, sure, yeah, Carson Wentz definitely had a positive impact on the Eagles franchise, but that doesn't make him the most important player in franchise history, except for the fact that if you remember, when things didn't really work out, the Eagles wanted to stick with Hurts instead of Carson Wentz. They traded Wentz to the Colts, who everyone forgets, for some reason gave up a first and a third round pick for Wentz. This was the trade. Now, the first round pick was a conditional first round pick. He had to get enough playing time, which he did. And keep in mind, it went so bad at the end of that season, the Colts moved off of Carson Wentz after that year. So they played him enough to lose the first round pick and then still got rid of him after the year. I don't know what's going on in Indianapolis, but the Philadelphia Eagles will take it. And what did they do with this draft capital? Well, first they had this trade where the third round pick was a part of it. So they traded with the Cowboys. They traded up to get Devonta Smith. They traded back where the Cowboys actually got Micah Parsons and then also Chauncey Goldston. So the first round picks weren't a part of this trade, but the third round pick was. That was what was used to trade up to get Smith, who has definitely been a real impact player for the Eagles and had a very big Super Bowl that was a big part of them winning. But this trade was really the key one. So what you see on the top part is what the Eagles got. They got pick 18, 103, 237, also a future first and future second round pick. They gave up multiple first round picks. One of those was the first round pick from the Carson Wentz trade that was used on Jahan Dotson, Trevor Penning, and Jordan Jackson. Incredibly interesting enough, Jahan Dotson didn't really work out right away, but ends up on the Eagles, who then had a big play for the Eagles in the Super Bowl, setting up a touchdown. Trevor Penning hasn't really worked out so far for the New Orleans Saints as well. And you look at how much draft capital the Eagles got from this. Well, what did they use this on? Actually is pretty impressive. First, with 2 of the picks, pick 18 and pick 101, they traded for A.J. Brown, who obviously was a massive force in the past 3 years for the Philadelphia Eagles, especially in the Super Bowl, where he had some key plays to allow them to win. The other first-round pick they traded up 1 pick and got Jalen Carter with that pick, another player who's been a huge impact piece, and I don't know if the Eagles even make the conference championship game without him, because he had that huge sack on Matthew Stafford when the Rams got hot at the right time at the end of that game. He was able to kind of douse the Flames and allow them to win with that sack right there. So, and obviously he's just an awesome player. So you have him. And also with the second round pick that was involved there, they traded with the Commanders, actually. The Commanders got Mike Sandstro, who's a really good player for them. But the Eagles got Cooper DeJean, who obviously not just a good player, but had a pick 6 in the Super Bowl. So you think about all the pieces that the Eagles got out of the Carson Wentz trade, essentially. The Wentz trade either directly or indirectly led to them getting A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Cooper DeJean, and Jalen Carter, and that's just the key pieces there. They don't win a Super Bowl without those pieces, so in a weird way, Carson Wentz has had his fingerprints all over both of the Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowls, despite the fact that he didn't play in either of them, and to make things weirder, Carson Wentz was the backup for the Kansas City Chiefs in this most recent Super Bowl. So he was on the sidelines for both of the Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl wins, despite the fact that he didn't play in any of them. Now, I was actually trying to think, is it legitimately a fair thing to say that he is the most important player in Eagles franchise history? And again, thinking about it, I don't think it's crazy, right? Because for you to be the most important player, I feel like you would have to have an impact on both of their Super Bowls. They've won 2 Super Bowls. I kind of feel like that's the case. And you look at the players who have won both the Super Bowls. There's only a couple. Like Jake Elliott won both Super Bowls, but I mean, I don't think he was the more impactful than what they got with the Carson Wentz trade or what Wentz did in 2017. You look at like Brandon Graham. He's probably the one guy you would look at and say maybe, because he did have the strip sack on Tom Brady. That was such a huge play there. And then he played in this most recent Super Bowl. I think the other argument you would say is, could you just say someone like Jalen Hurts, who's just a really good player, been to 2 Super Bowls and won one? Is that just more impactful than the guy who had an impact in both Super Bowls? Probably like him and Nick Foles are guys you would still put ahead of Carson Wentz, but I think you could at least make the argument that Carson Wentz is the most impactful player in Philadelphia Eagles history, which I just think is such an interesting thing. But also, I mean, this is sort of a funny video, but I think what this video also can highlight is just how smart Howie Roseman is, right? I mean, how many of these decisions, the one you look at and say, okay, what might have not been the worst thing in the world to have Micah Parsons, even though Devonta Smith is really good. I kind of feel like they needed Devonta Smith more than Micah Parsons. They are pretty good at developing edge rushers, but getting a wide receiver is really important, and they were able to do that. The trade for A.J. Brown really worked out. The selection of Jalen Carter really worked out. And again, I mean, Mike Sandstrom, Cooper DeJean, who would you rather have? I'll let you be the judge, but it's worked out for them. Cooper DeJean's been great for the Philadelphia Eagles. So as a whole, I mean, like, they made a lot of really good decisions, and it's all thanks to Carson Wentz. So Eagles fans, if you have your Carson Wentz jersey still from back in the day, you should be wearing that, because he was a huge impact player for you. At least that's what I think about all this. I don't know, just a fun thing I thought of. So yeah. Those are my thoughts on Carson Wentz and his legacy with the Philadelphia Eagles. Let me know, what do you think of all of this silliness that I'm talking about in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching. Also, I'll mention real quick before I go that I do have a movie channel. If you like watching movies, you can check that out. The link is in the description below. I have some like movie reviews and then like some tier list, fun things like that. So yeah, if that seems like the kind of thing, check it out.